We'll continue to analyze this bank loans data, and we want to fill up this table up here with the count for the number of personal loans taken out by these people in the 9 categories. Now, previously what we had done is find one of these values and then populate it to the table. But we know the concept of a loop now, and so what we could do is use that concept to repeatedly do these. So let's do this first for the Arkansas column. So if we want to do it for the Arkansas column, we'll need to do it separately for each of the education levels. So we have a list of those. So what we can do is create a range from 0 to the length of the education list. And then we can sum up in each case the number of personal loans in each education level, but only for the state of Arkansas. So the way we can do that is like so. We'll go ahead and put in the assignment. So we want to change the count table for row I, which is going to correspond to one of the educations, and then column 0, which is the Arkansas column. And then we're going to use the LOC command, but with the sum at the end. And anytime we use the LOC command, we've got to the left of the comma the rows, and the right of the comma the column we want to sum. And we can go ahead and put that in. That's personal loan. And then to the left, we're going to have a criteria, and it'll have to be 2 different criteria. So we'll put 2 sets of parentheses joined by an and. And the first criteria will be where the education is equal to the corresponding value in the list. So I've got an I in here because the loop is going to go 0, 1, and then 2. And so depending on the value of I, it's going to change this education value. And then for the moment, we're just doing this for Arkansas. So we can use Arkansas. We could actually put the state list and refer to the 0 unit as well. Okay, so we'll run this cell. And it doesn't specifically look like anything happened, but if we go to the count table, we can see that now the first column is populated. All right, so that would be fine. We could redo that for Missouri and redo that for Oklahoma, but what if we could just do all 9 cells at once? And we certainly can. I'll insert a couple of different cells here so that we have space to do this. What if we could design a loop that would go over all the rows and all the columns? All right, so let's do that. So what we would do is start the loop the same way we did previously. So this will be a loop that goes over the different rows. But now what we'll do is embed in there another loop that goes over the states. Our states were in a list called state list. And now all we have to do is redo this statement up here, except use a reference to the state list. So we'll be populating the count table. But now it will be row I, which is an education level, column J, which will be a state. So we'll use dataset.loc with the sum. And we know to the right of the comma, we want the column that we're referring to. That's personal loan. And then we're again going to have 2 criteria. First criteria on education. That's the same as we did up here. But then when we go to state, we'll refer to our state list. And the index on state is J. J is going to change from 0 to 1 to 2. So simple as that, we're going to populate all 9 cells in this table. It will just write over these others, but that won't cause us any problem. So now all of the cells are populated. And then the last thing we can do is if we wanted to put in totals for each of the row, a way to do that would be to add a column to the table called row, and sum the count table, and then it requires this statement axis equals 1. Axis equals 1 refers to the fact that we're going to add a column. So the column is axis 1. And so we have row totals if we want row totals for those. Now, as part of an assignment, you are going to think about creating another table, and instead of populating that with the mean, populating that with, so instead of populating that with the sum, populating that with the mean.